I was going to start with, it's going to get to, 30 degrees much later this morning, but it is 28 degrees in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. I'm Maupe Oguyusuf.
Wait, I was waiting for the song you promised. Anyway, it's 29 degrees here in Lagos, and it already feels like 35 degrees. So I say welcome to the program. And by the way, Mokwe, happy birthday to you. So now we can sing that song.
It has nothing to do with my birthday. It has everything to do with the visual you'll be seeing much after this one. But maybe, just maybe, I'll sing that song to you when we're about to play the visual. But for now, we're going all the way to the hills of Idonre in Ondo State, where, yes, it does have a bit of mystery. They've been there for many years. They've been there for generations. And every time people view them, they always view them with a sense of awe. Now take a look at this, Ayo. And tell me what, I know you'll say you see movies. I was just going to say, tell me something else you see. Don't tell me about movies. But I do know that to go with history, we do know that people used to live up the hills of Idonre. They didn't live at the foot of the hills. They lived in the hills of Idonre. And there's still relics in those places to show you the ways of life of the people who lived in those places. And we understand that the people who lived up the hills had longevity. It was one of the gifts that they were bestowed, in the times when they used to live there. But now that, wars are over, communities are no longer worrying as they used to, people feel safe living at the foot of these hills. But then, whenever it is you get to visit these hills, the lovely, mysterious hills in the town of Idonre, you certainly but cannot view, with awe, the mysteries of the supernatural.
We have brought to you many, many landscapes in the country. We've brought hills, we've brought, you name it, dams, waterfalls and all. But Idonre Hill, as Mokwe has said, has its mysteries as one of its iconic features. What we know, by the way, Mokwe, it's a World Heritage Site of UNESCO as well. It has spectacular valleys interspersed with inselbergs of 3,000 feet above sea level. Its physical attributes include the Owas Palace, shrines, Old Court Belfry, Thunderwater, Burial Mountain grounds, you name it. It's one of the most awesome and beautiful natural landscapes in Ondo State of Nigeria. And, the sights and sounds of it, the blessing of it, is not really appreciated if you live nearby. It's when you visit. And yes, Mokwe, I still see a movie. Because I see many of these movies from the West and all. And I'm wondering, why don't you guys just come to Nigeria and take a shot? There is a movie I hear is coming out, Mokwe. And if anyone told you that some of those sites were shot in Nigeria, up north, believe me, you would say it's an absolute lie. I'm looking forward to that movie. I'm not even going to give anything out about it. I'm looking forward to it. I understand that they had a tough time shooting in some places, and this is one of those places that you just want to sell Nigeria. This is a call for the Federal Ministry of Culture and Tourism, or whatever we call it now, and even in the States. Let's sell what we have, because the world needs the beauty that Nigeria has all over its landscape. It's back to you, my friend.
Indeed. Well, what I see right now, I see it in the future will be cable cars traversing the many hills of Idonre, making it easy for people to appreciate the view from the top.
Absolutely.
But talking about views from the top, Something wonderful. Something they never saw coming happened yesterday in Kogi State. I don't think anyone saw that coming, really. And we're referring to that, the homecoming of Senator Natasha who decided to defy the odds and go home to visit her people. This was how we captured it when we saw the event.
Supporters from the 5 local government areas of Kogi Central converge on Ehima, Okehi local government area, to welcome the embattled Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who is visiting the state in spite of a ban on political rallies and restriction of movement. Amid music and dancing, Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan stuns the waiting crowd as she arrives dramatically in a white helicopter alongside her husband. The cheering supporters carrying placards and chanting solidarity songs defied police warnings and a curfew imposed by the chairman of the Okehi local government area, Mr. Amoka Monday, ahead of her homecoming. The embattled senator addresses the gathering, insisting that she has every right to visit her hometown to celebrate the Salah with her constituents.
We read on the news that rallies, gatherings will not be allowed, that roads will be blocked, convoys leading into the states will not be allowed. I knew that we were the targets. But then I said, this is not political season, this is not campaign time. We are not having a rally. This is just me, the senator representing Kogi Central, coming down to have people to celebrate this festive time, the Salah, with you. And there is nothing wrong in that. I am breaking no law.
Reasons for her conflict with the leadership of the Senate is brought to the front burner.
On the 30th of January, this year, on the 30th of January 2025, there was the groundbreaking ceremony of the 5 mini LNGs in Ajakuta. That project angered him, and I'm saying it on camera. He got very angry. And he told a number of people in the cabinet, question them, how come that project found its way here? And in his words, he said, how can such resources, gas from the Niger Delta, be moved to the north? But he will stop it. And I will prove to you what he did. After the Senate President removed me, by the way, it is because of the 5 LNG projects that have probably removed me from the committee of local content. Because he said, ever since he made me as the chairperson of local content, I have used that office to promote the North. That was what he said.
The Kogi senator had previously accused the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and former Governor Yahaya Bello of orchestrating security threats against her, maintaining that she is a victim of political persecution.
Well, that was how it went down at Ihime in the Okene local government area of Kogi State yesterday when Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan returned home to greet her people. Well, this morning we're going to be having that discussion with Professor Jide Jimo, who is the Dean Faculty of Communication and Media Studies at the Lagos State University. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Professor. Good to see you.
Thank you, Maupe. Nice to be here again.
Indeed, I was just going to ask you, for your initial thoughts. I mean, as someone from Kogi State, seeing that visual go viral on social media and also in the news, what were your thoughts?
Well, I felt a sense of shame. Shame that things that should concern legislative things that will benefit the people, that will be about the welfare and security of the people, have been pushed back to the back burners. And now we are immersed in drama that will not, at the end of the day, be of benefit to the people. Those of us who are not partisan, who do not carry political party cards, are interested more in the development of society. I teach development communication, and I know that without peace, without cooperation, without tranquility among the political leaders and leaders at every level, there cannot be development. So, in sum, we have left what we need to do to engage in what will not benefit society. And I speak about this to the entirety of the political family. I mean, the political spectrum. I mean, across all spectrum, our political leaders have failed us, and they have continued to fail us. They major in minor and minor in and take their minors in major.
While I hear you, with regards to that, what precisely brings shame in this particular visual which you have watched? Because some people will say, look, this is politics that has degenerated. Somebody is now, it looks like she's holding the short end of the stick, and it does appear that the odds have been stacked against her, and that somehow she's had to find ways to prevail. So, for instance, in Kogi State, when the state government was busy putting, rules in place, ostensibly targeted at her, she had to find ways to still see how she could meet her people and connect with them. Because at the end of the day, isn't connection with the people important?
Okay, when I say shame, it is not in regards to the visuals before us. It is in regards to the whole process that led to that. So I'm not specific about the fact that she found a way to defy all odds and meet her people. I mean, how can you shut down almost literally a whole local government senatorial district just because somebody is trying to visit? No. So those are the things we are talking about. Is it the priority of those in power at every level, to shut down where this is a state that has security challenges. It has challenges on almost every other aspects of governance that people have been elected, to solve. And then this is what we are getting. So I speak in respect of the whole process, not the visual before us particularly.
I was actually asking about what you made of the visuals yesterday. The fact that she was able to, when you saw the visuals, because I imagine, as a communications professor, that seeing them on TV today is not the first time you're encountering these visuals. So, as somebody from Kogi State, what did you make of Senator Natasha's homecoming?
Well, in terms of strategy, yes, strategic planning, being ahead of your adversaries, yes, I saw it. I never expected that you would come in on helicopter. Having seen that the whole roads leading to where she was supposed to go have been barricaded by, security agencies, and even the particular local government, a curfew was imposed. So yes, in terms of strategy, yes, it was quite ahead of our adversaries.
So let me ask you then, I mean, you have already expressed your disappointment with how the entire saga has played out. But, you know, during her address to the people yesterday, quite a number of things came out. She talked about how on the 30th of January, at the groundbreaking of 5 LNG plants in Kogi State, that was when, you know, she was taken away as the chairman of the local content committee as a result of the anger of the alleged anger of the Senate president. So it does appear that this quarrel has started over what one might term development accruing or coming to the people, or maybe is it that resources are so scarce that, you know, senators have to fight and quarrel over them? It's unclear. But this is basically where it would seem that this is not discounting other allegations that she has made, but it does appear that things began to get to a head when this particular groundbreaking ceremony happened. What did you make of some of the things that she said at that particular event?
Politicians, they will make a capital out of any event or any activity they are engaged in. These are allegations. And let us be reminded also that most of these things are before the courts. And to a large extent, we might not be able to comment on the particular ingredients of what led to what, since the matters are sub judice. And even in her narrative, she said those are the things, and that she was also going to confirm some of those things. I mean, until we are able to put all of these things together and provide a lot of evidence, you know, to back up some of those claims, it might be difficult to comment on that. In my own part of the Kogi State, we speak Yoruba, and one of the things we say is that Ijalude Ti Oridowe. These were people who politically across the political divide have had some things in common. We've seen attending weddings, we've seen house opening, we've seen other things they do together, birthdays and all the rest. So we need a little more evidence, not even a little, much more evidence, filed, provable, in order to get to the bottom of all of these things. But my point really is that this is not what we should be contending with now. The need for development of society is high. The need to guarantee security for the people is high. And all they are doing now are more or less protecting their egos, you know, from various divides. We need a little more evidence to really, at the end of the day, get the conclusions about what really happened and what all of this is designed to achieve.
Well, I do know that my colleague Ayo has some questions for you as well. Ayo.
Thank you, Markwen. Prof, you know, first of all, this has been repeated like twice already in your conversation with Markwen, the communication ambit. You said, for emphasis, you teach development communication. Now, what one would expect is, just as you said, this shouldn't really have degenerated as far as it has. But here we are, and these things happen from time to time. So in terms of communication, both within the Senate and the senator we're talking about now, and between the Senate, between the senator and her constituents, how would you rate the communication so far?
Very poor. Very, very poor. The communication aspect of the whole process was mishandled. You know, and I think it is more about ego than strategic communication. Because in communication, we look at the long run. At the long run, is it really what, you know, where will this lead to? why not nip this thing in the bud before it becomes this way? Now, if we are not trying to suppress an information that has been given out, it becomes suspicious. You know, it is better to engage with the communication and give explanations and reach out for how we can have a peaceful settlement. This is a conflict situation. And my other aspect, my other area of interest is conflict-sensitive communication. You know, strategically, you need to see from beginning where all this will lead to. Is it worth it? Is it a situation where you could decree out or engage with it through explanation, through peaceful resolution, so that it doesn't become what it has become now?
Okay.
I'm sure all sides are embarrassed by whatever they think is going on. What is going on is embarrassing to all sides. And it's embarrassing to the society. It's embarrassing to the constituents. It's embarrassing to those of us who are watching from the sideline, who believe that Nigerians deserve a better leadership than we are having.
Well, now, Prof,
so the communication was mishandled right from the beginning.
Okay. So two things I'd like you to speak to very quickly. Still on communication. On the one hand, do you think, I mean, this is a yes or no question, do you think that if the communication had been gotten right and thought through from the very beginning, this whole thing wouldn't have boiled over as far as it has? Whatever your answer is, Prof, what do we do now? What kind of communication, what aspect, what approach to communication do you suggest to resolve these issues in a way that, I don't know how that is possible, in a way that the egos of the dramatis personae are still protected?
Yes, they really have to come back together. They really have to go back to check and say, where has the rain started between us, so that we can really resolve this matter. At the end of the day, you know, as we say in war situation, wars will happen. At the end of the day, communication will still resolve whatever the outcome is. So why not short circuit that process? You know, communities who, I mean, engage in fighting, they will, I mean, talk tough to each other. Sometimes, if you are able to resolve it at that point, it doesn't become crisis. By the time it becomes a crisis, violent crisis, you know, it's a continuum. You know, so as much as possible, try to short-circuit the process. Try to short-circuit the process so that at the end of the day, you arrive at a peaceful resolution. So even as bad as it seems now, my appeal to all the warring parties is, look, go back to the table, discuss these things, reach out to each other. It's not everything that you take to the media, even though media is supposed to know and enlighten us about things going on. But when there's a conflict situation, there are other avenues. There are parties. There are shadow parties. There are all sorts of people who you might not even come out, but have this ability to quench the fire. Now, this is related to the kind of political parties we now have. Can you imagine a political party under people like our Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who will not have, as a party, call all of those warring parties and say, look, stop this. This is the party's position. But the kind of parties we have now, they are just room and parlor. You move from one side to the other, no ideology. The contenders on this side today are also the contenders on the other side tomorrow. So all of these things, those are the fallout of some of those things that we do. A party without strict ideology, we don't even know what they stand for, except to win election. You know, so if not, the institutions, strong institutions that we should have have been able to call these people to order and get them to speak and say that, look, in the long run, we are all losers. So it is in the self-interest of those contending forces to please come back, think, collaborate, talk, and then resolve this matter. You know, and the earlier, the better.
Well, Prof, already, I don't know, what you make of this, whether or not the communication is continuing the way you would have preferred, because already, and again, using the media, as you said earlier, the state government has come out to make a statement about, what they witnessed. Mrs. Akpoti-Uduaghan said she did not break any law by holding the event, referencing the Constitution that says that she has the right to be free to express her choice in gatherings and celebrations, particularly at a festive occasion. However, the state government came out through one of its spokespersons and said that the senator deliberately violated the state government's ban on political gatherings, even though she said this is not a political gathering. Now, in terms of communication again, what's your assessment of that? How productive do you see that going, and what would be your recommendations?
Okay, the environment of communication in that place has shown that they didn't even consider so many things before giving those orders. That was a public holiday, wasn't it? It wasn't advertised really as a political campaign, So the government will have done better by just allowing her to talk to her people and then and leave. And then it will not leave the government of Kogi State as it is now with that negative perception of trying to stop just one person. And then you are making rules and laws and then curfew, I mean, this is not, the optics are not nice for the government. So if they have studied the whole communication environment, if they have done the SWOT analysis that they were supposed to have done, I think it would be a better thing not to make those rules. It's about perception. It is perceived now that you tried to stop just a person, and then the whole apparatus of government, from the security, from executive, local government. I mean, we are not in the worst situation, really, And when other things that are worse than that happen, what did you do? When we talk of kidnapping happening in so many areas in that place, no emergency was declared, no curfew was declared, and now, when it would seem that there was nothing so serious, it was declared. I think it was not well thought through. It was not, and it would be better not to dig in on this matter. If you did a survey on the perception of the government, in this matter, I don't think the perception will look good for the kind of image that a state government should have.
Prof, I want to quickly take you up on, the message that was sent yesterday, because you just made reference to how this is certainly not sitting well on the image of the Kogi state government. Senator Natasha did speak quite extensively yesterday with her people, with her constituents. She made several allegations, while she addressed them. She made reference to a plot. I mean, she also made reference to attempts to recall her. And she said that this was, orchestrated. They tried to get through to Governor Ododo, and Governor Ododo said no. He said a categorical no, because he said she has the support of the people. That was what he was said to have said. But now, she has defied all the odds, and she's come home to this rapturous welcome that we all can see. What message do you think that this sends to those who oppose her, to, this recall system which has now gotten into the hands of INEC, and INEC has said, oh, they're going to start. Does this counter in any way the recall that was said to have started?
Well, the whole recall process, we might not be able to comment extensively on it, because what we see on this social media, claims being made, people being deceived, I think we should also leave that to the process and the law courts and the INEC to determine. But knowing how difficult really it is to recall any senator in Nigeria or any public official, it will run against the run of play if this succeeds. And allegations are all over the places on who is sponsoring, who is not sponsoring. At the end of the day, that group, that massive number of people that we saw belies really the fact that they want this lady to come home.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, so you agree then, you agree with those who say that it rubbishes the allegations or the attempts at recall? Because some people will say, if people really wanted her recalled, who are the people who trooped out, who defied all the odds to go and welcome her so joyously? Does this show people who wanted to recall or who want to recall their senator?
Yes, even in that gathering, she was asking, somebody was asking questions and they were answering in the negative, whether they wanted that recall, whether what has been done to her was justified or not. Yes. So the optics we see, the things we see now, will seem to show that, no, these people do not want Natasha recall. I think that's just a summary of what is there. But we should still wait. We should still wait.
What I'm wondering is, for you, do you think it puts paid to that process? Do you think it immediately nullifies the process?
Well, even if it does for me, even if it does for every other person, even if it does for people who are watching from the sidelines, we still need to allow the process to go on, so that if it's defeated legally, then everything will be in place. We will have seen that, yes, the people. So no matter what speculation we have now, may not really matter. If the process continues, let's see where it ends.
You have said that dialogue should be what will end this, but do you think that this process has it not gone beyond dialogue? With all the matters in court, with attempts at recall, don't you think that dialogue has since gone beyond the stage of dialogue?
No, I do not think it has gone beyond the state of dialogue. You see, at the end of the day, no matter how long this crisis goes on, they are still going to meet at a table to say, no, we were wrong. Let us move ahead. Politicians, sometimes you think they are so much at loggerheads with each other, and you see them, somebody's child is getting wedded, they all go there. Meanwhile, supporters in all over the places have, had fights, broken their heads, and broken ties, broken family ties, and all the rest, and then the politicians will still come back. Because at the end of the day, dialogue will help to resolve any matter, no matter how long it has festered. You know, it's dialogue that will still end the whole process. You know, so I do not think it is too late to have that. Cases can be withdrawn. People can, the government can not only prosecute, as lawyers put it. We can say no. We are no longer interested in this case, and then we have decided to resolve among ourselves. And that is what I think we should encourage our politicians to do now, rather than digging in and causing mayhem and causing underdevelopment for our people. Just imagine the amount of money that must have gone into this process for and against, and see how many roads it will build. See how many facilities it could have provided for the people they are talking about, you know. So it's better not to dig in, but to start coming back to the table and discussing, so that at the end of the day, the people whose security and welfare they claim, or in fact that they were given mandates to protect, will benefit from the process. Just imagine how much each side must have spent.
Prof, I'm afraid
on this process.
I think that, you know, your last words on that has been taken. Thank you so much for your intervention on the matter this morning. Professor Jide Jimoh is the Dean, Faculty of Communication and Media Studies at the Lagos State University. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, we'll take a break and we'll be back shortly to discuss another issue. Please stay with us.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Earlier we told you that today is April 2. What you may not know is that it's one of the days separated to observe certain things, one of which is the World Autism Awareness Day. It's observed on April 2 every year, and this year the theme is advancing neurodiversity and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The whole idea is to raise awareness about autism and, you know, all related issues around it. This morning we're joined by Dr. Oluwatoni Adeyemi, who is a consultant public health physician and senior special assistant on health in Lagos State. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, tell us what people need to know generally about autism. Any condition that is related in the minutest way to disability gives people the shivers. Tell us what we need to know about autism.
Okay, so first of all, autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. So what that basically means in simple terms is that it starts from the brain and then it affects the development of a child. But autism is not just present in children. Adults also have autism. So when there's this neurodevelopmental disorder, it affects the way the child communicates sometimes. It affects the behavior of the child. It also affects the social interaction of the child. So maybe how the child interacts with peers, or how he interacts in an environment, maybe in a crowded environment, or how he's sensitive to noise, lights, and all that. So usually we don't look at autism in isolation. We look at it as a spectrum because it varies. There are different, in a layman layman terms, I could say that we have what we call mild autism, moderate autism, and then severe autism. So it varies, and it's not necessarily a disability, because what it means is they have a different ability, which is why the theme this year is looking at neurodiversity. What that means in simple terms is that the brain has diverse ways of functioning. The brain has different ways it processes things. So these children fall on different spectrum of this autism, what we refer to as autism. And it would amaze you to know that the mild autism before used to be called Asperger's syndrome. And these are children that have very high IQ. So despite the fact that they have been labeled as having autism, they have a very high IQ, and then they channel their strengths into other things like maths, things like chess, things like creative art. So you find that those children are very good in some selective aspects of brain function generally. So this is, in a nutshell, is what autism is. But we have the severe one as well, and moderate.
So now, when you say it exists in adults as well, is this something they catch along the way, or they had it from birth?
So most likely they would have had it from birth. So autism presents early enough in birth. How we usually detect or diagnose autism is when a child is not attaining the developmental milestones. So pediatricians have developmental milestones, meaning what a child is supposed to do when the child is 1 year, what the child is supposed to do when he's 2 years old. So it usually starts from childhood and then advances into adulthood. Unfortunately, they usually say there is no cure. However, the child can still live a good quality of life based on enabling and supporting environments that have been put in place for that child, and then adults eventually.
It's that supporting environment that I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that those who have to deal with it on a daily basis, you would understand their concerns as well, because they literally have to create a totally new environment, you know. What are some of the challenges you know that parents and caregivers usually have with autistic
Okay, so the challenges actually stem, first of all, even from the family unit, from the nuclear family unit. Because for autism, a lot of people tend to always go into denial initially when a child has been diagnosed with autism. And sometimes the mother might live in a bit of regret or think that it was probably something she did in pregnancy that led to her having an autistic child, which are all those are myths, which I hope we'll dispel later on. So there has to be acceptance, first of all, within the individual nuclear family units to know that, okay, this is a child with special needs. These are the strengths of this child. I always emphasize the strength part, because these autistic children actually have strengths which should be harnessed. So it starts from that individual family unit. Then you now go a bit wider to the community. Community meaning schools, churches, and even healthcare facilities that these children go to. They need to understand the peculiar needs of these autistic children. And then initially there was a school of thought that was like, those children should be in specialized school. But research has shown that having them in mainstream school actually helps them better. So the implication of this is that there should be policies, even in our educational sector, to ensure that we have special needs children in all our schools, so that once they have been identified, their unique needs can be attended to and tailored to at these educational facilities or schools. Likewise, in healthcare facilities as well, because when they go to healthcare facilities, because I told you that it goes straight into adulthood, if they don't have a caregiver that is following them to the healthcare facility, the healthcare provider should be able to notice and identify that this is an autistic child or an autistic adult. So apart from, because a lot of them have issues with communicating what they are actually feeling. So you come up with innovative ideas, innovative things like have pictograms, have pictures that can help you. If you want to ask about their level of pain, there should be something pictorial, things that you know that they'll be able to respond to easily. So that's all part of building an inclusive environment to ensure that they are not left behind.
Now, I know that Malpo wants to come in on this conversation, but please speak to those caregivers in particular, and that's what concerns me the most, because as you know, it's not just education they have to readjust.
Yeah.
They have to readjust their menu, they have to readjust their lifestyles and everything. And so what are the characteristics of a child that has been diagnosed with autism that the parents and caregivers need to understand and defer to? Because it can be tiring when you struggle with a particular, aspect of your life, what are the things that you would recommend that, look, you know what, we need to give this a little more attention?
So yes, as I described earlier, autism actually falls into a spectrum, and it's a very long spectrum, meaning each child with autism would not present the same way. So even if you have two children with autism, their characteristics would not be the same. So it's not a one-shoe-fits-all kind of situation. You have to understand. So the onus is now on the parent or the caregiver to understand the unique needs of this child so that you're able to cater to those unique needs. So they have varying, there are some, in fact, there are autistic children that are hypersensitive. So when they hear music or they see bright lights, it makes them very hyper. And on the other hand, you have those that are hyposensitive. So they are hearing music, they are hearing things, and they don't respond. They have a blunt affect, what we call a blunt affect, meaning they are not showing their emotions. There's another misconception. People usually think that autistic children have no emotions because they usually have a blunt affect, but they actually have emotions. So the summary of what I'm trying to say is that there's no one approach for autistic children. We do not put them together. Instead, we try to, that's why we say neurodiversity. They are divergent. They have different ways that their brains function. So as a caregiver, as a mother, as a father of an autistic child, you need to understand the specific needs of your child. So it's when you understand this need that you'll be able to tailor responses and tailor approaches that would help this child. So it's not even the specialist that would help you do that, because the specialist will give you assignment to go back home to understand how your child behaves. They can help you understand, though, but you have to be the observant one to know how your child behaves, and then this would help come up with strategies to be able to deal or handle with this child.
Just when you thought you were done with school, there's another one.
Yes, totally.
Marwe?
Dr. Adeyemi, let me quickly, take you up on the myths which you're hoping to expatiate on. Some people were talking about how they think that vaccination and all those kinds of things sometimes, causes a baby to then become autistic. You want to speak to this? Because some people say it's based on research. How true is it?
Okay, so from evidence so far, that's a major myth that we're trying to dispel, which is linking vaccinations to autism. And this came about because autism is usually diagnosed when a child is around between 12 to 18 months of age. And this is around the time they have completed their first set of vaccinations. So mothers trying to find a reason for the autistic child will automatically link it to vaccination. But research has shown that there is no link at all between use of vaccines and the development of autism. However, there are known predisposing factors to autism. First of all, it's been linked to genetics. It's been found that there's a familial link, meaning it's sometimes run in the family. That's autism. So that's one of the associated factors to the development of autism. Then we also have environmental factors and biological factors. Some of those biological factors include advanced age, but this time around, like in Down syndrome, it's usually said that a woman above the age of 35 years old that gets pregnant has a higher chance of having a child with Down syndrome. For autism, it's actually the man. So when a man above 40 years of age has a higher chance of giving sperms out that could lead to an autistic child. There are also some infections in pregnancy that could lead to autism. Infections like chlamydia in pregnancy, syphilis in pregnancy, and even gonorrhea in pregnancy. But these are things that are tested during the antenatal period. Exposure to toxins as well, air pollution when a woman is pregnant, and even some drugs that a pregnant woman could use, like drugs for epilepsy, can also predispose one to having autism. So vaccines, from all the research that have been done, have been proven not to be a causative factor for autism.
I see that you're also the Senior Special Assistant on Health to the Lagos State government. I was wondering, do you think that there's something that the Lagos State government can do, or governments in general can do, to raise awareness and also help parents who have to, deal or study or, help their children become regular adults?
Yes, totally. So we have an agency which is called the Lagos State Office for Disability Affairs, LASODA. So LASODA deals with disabilities of all kinds, all forms, even though initially I had said that autism typically would not refer to it as a disability because it just means that you have a different ability. But yes, that agency is responsible for advocacy to ensure people understand what autism is, how to deal and handle and cope with children with autism. So they do all that. So government is really big on that. And then because I said it's a spectrum, that we have the mild, moderate, and severe. For severe, they rely heavily on caregivers. They're almost able to do nothing on their own, which is why we also have the Ministry of Youth and Social Development in charge of some of our special homes in Lagos State. So we have some designated homes whereby if a parent feels I can't cope anymore, this is draining on my resources, it's draining on even my mental health and all that, sometimes government can actually admit and accept some of those children into our special homes where they are properly catered for and then their special needs are met. But remember that I said that the goal is to ensure that these children also go to mainstream schools. So what that means is that Lagos State would also be looking at equipping special needs teachers, having more special needs teachers in our government schools, so that once these children are identified in such schools, we don't have to pull them out of school. Instead, we integrate them into the educational system and ensure that whatever needs or whatever unique needs that this child requires, they are made available to them in our mainstream schools.
Tell us about this, the theme of this year, the World Autism Awareness Day 2025, advancing neurodiversity and the UN Development Goals. What does that mean, and what's the person watching and listening to you right now expected to do?
Okay, so advancing neurodiversity still brings us back to the definition of autism, which says that autism just means that their brains are functioning at different levels and different capabilities. So what that means is that these children with autism have varying needs. And then we have the SDG goals, the Sustainable Development Goals that we're working towards. So as we're working towards the Sustainable Development Goals, we need to ensure that we take into consideration the diverse functioning of the brain of these children. They need to be, we have to have inclusive policies. I mean, when we talk about things about education, which is one of the SDG goals we're aiming towards, everything I just mentioned about education, meaning having special needs teachers in our mainstream schools, should be considered, because we want to ensure that these children are not left behind, that these children are able to thrive wherever they are as it relates to the Sustainable Development Goals.
You know, most of the time when we talk about children, we tend to restrict all of their concerns outside of the home. We tend to restrict all of their concerns to education.
Yeah.
But they definitely are more than that. Would you say that governments, society, are giving adequate attention to the needs of children on the entire spectrum, let me use your word, generally, as opposed to just keeping everything that concerns children to education?
Oh, so everything that concerns children is not limited to just education alone, because remember I said that these children with autism also have unique talents. I mentioned things like chess, I mentioned things like arts, which these children are very good in and which have to be developed in this child.
I get that about the autistic child, but I'm talking about children generally.
Oh, children generally.
Because even the other children who are not autistic or who don't have any special needs, they also have to interface with children with special needs.
Yeah.
So how do we prepare them for all of that? What are the other talents and skills we need to teach them to, so that the inclusivity will be indeed inclusive?
Okay, so because we have changed the strategy now away from having specialized schools for these children, we encourage them to go to mainstream schools. So these other children are exposed to autistic children from a very early age. So schools, even from home, parents have to educate their children that different children have different abilities. Children are special in their various ways. Before also in schools, they would designate just a classroom and say, this is the classroom for special needs children. This causes stigma and discrimination prevention, and this is what we're trying to prevent against. So the goal is to ensure that they are integrated in whatever system they find themselves, whether in school, whether in religious organizations, the churches, the mosques. They are integrated, and other children are made to understand, because other children too have to care for these children with special needs. So they need to also understand their peculiarities. They need to understand some of the things that maybe they react to, so that they can also form like a shield around these children.
You sound like you're giving the teachers more work right now, because that's what they have to do. We have to wish you, the best at what you do. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
Adeyemi is a consultant public health physician and senior special assistant on health in Lagos State. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, that's the show today. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your morning, and welcome to a new work week. Again, Markwe, happy birthday. Amaya Makinde, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Ayo, and thank you to all our viewers for watching. Have a great day.